Tonight on Joy News Prime, Ghana Health Service advises against non-essential travel to countries with exceedingly high coronavirus infection rates and further tightens the screening protocols for passengers arriving in Ghana. The latest advisory follows a recent spike in the number of arriving passengers testing positive for COVID-19 at the Kotoka International Airport. The health authorities are meanwhile being advised to proceed cautiously with the use of Russia's Sputnik vaccine in the country's COVID-19 inoculation drive. Private sector is being urged to support government's efforts to kick out malaria just as it has done in the ongoing fight against COVID-19.
Look back to what we did last year when we had the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, it took private sector and the government to actually come together to put a plan together, and private sector supported in a big way. You know, so on this journey, we're looking at that sort of formula.
Also, Central Region Police arrest hundreds of suspected criminals at Kasoa and vow to make life uncomfortable for criminals in the town and throughout the region. Also coming up later in the bulletin, former Special Prosecutor Martin Amido joins critics questioning the nomination of private legal practitioner KISSI AGYEBENG as a successor and warns. And in business, businesses record improved financial performance in the first quarter of this year as the impact of COVID-19 on the operations wanes. Joy News Prime comes to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air on GoTV channel 144 and DSTV channel 421. Remember, this is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Police in the Central Region have arrested 340 suspected criminals at Kasoa in an operation dubbed Operation Storm Kasoa. The arrest, according to the police, forms part of measures employed by the security agencies to combat the crime situation there. Briefing the media at Kasoa, Central Region Police Commander DCOP Habiba Chumesi Sapon warned they will make life uncomfortable for criminals at Kasoa and throughout the region. Richard Kwejonyako has more in the following report.
The 340 suspected criminals include 5 females. The Operation Storm Kasoa by the police is an operation activated by the Central Regional Police Command to fight crime in the area. On the 20th of April, the Regional Police Command issued a release indicating the deployment of police personnel to augment what the command has at Kasoa. In today's operation, the police retrieved a total of 240 laptops, 142 assorted mobile phones, and 6 Nigerian passports during the operation. They also found on 9 persons substances suspected to be Indian hemp. DCOP Habiba Chumesi Sapon is the Regional Police Commander.
On 29th of April 2021, today, the Central Regional Police Command embarked on special operation dubbed Operation Storm Kasoa to climb down on rampant criminal activities in Kasoa municipality and its environment. The team went to Budumbura, Kasoa CP, Adade, Akwele and Ofako, and arrested 340 suspects, most of them Nigerians, including 5 females. 9 of the suspects were found in possession of substance suspected to be Indian hemp.
The Regional Police Command is assuring criminals in Kasoa and its environs their reign is over.
Again, the 10th city we spoke about on the 20th of April to be mounted within communities in Kasoa is in progress. Plans are advanced in collaboration with opinion leaders in forming community watch committees. Inaugurations will be held soon. Media and community engagements are still ongoing. More informants cultivated. The command is once again reminding the general public that their cooperation is much needed. they should share information with the police. We say, if you see something, say something. And if you want to say something about crime. We want to sound a word of caution to criminals that police command will make the region uncomfortable for criminals to stay. We assure the general public that security situation in the region is perfect and calm. The police will ensure professionalism in all its operations in the region. The command will welcome all complaints against police officers, and due process will also be taken to bring justice to all.
The police say they have begun screening them and would process them for court.
Former Special Prosecutor Martin Amedu is the latest to join the list of critics questioning the nomination of private legal practitioner KISSI AGYEBENG as Special Prosecutor. His main concern is that the nominee's ties to persons involved in the Japamino royalties agreement, on the back of which he resigned, compromises him. In his latest episode, Mr. Amedu also alleges the president's cousin, Gabi Asare-Okyedakun, leaked news of the nomination in an attempt to influence and pressurize the president to approve him. It comes on the back of criticisms by some, including Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, about the basis for Mr. AGYEBENG's appointment. There is more in this news desk report.
According to Mr. Amedu, records show the role the president's cousin, Gabi Asare-Okyedakun, who established Africa Legal Associates and Asase Radio, played with White and Case LLP of London, one of the foreign law firms, in the suspected corruption transaction. He claims Asase Radio is undertaking what he describes as political propaganda to prepare the minds of the Ghanaian and international public to accept KISSI AGYEBENG. Mr. Amedu argues the nominee is a personal friend and classmate, the Attorney General and Gabi Okyedakun, and accused the two of using the nominee to protect the actors involved in the corruption deal. His concerns come on the back of similar reservations expressed by Vice President of Policy Think Tank Imani Ghana Bryce Simmons, who believes Mr. AGYEBENG should recuse himself due to his closeness to Africa Legal Associates. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu says the nominee lacks the credentials and weight to combat corruption.
Credentials compared to who? Compared to Martin Amedu, he's a non-starter. Compared to Martin Amedu in terms of stature, experience, integrity, and reputation, he just doesn't come close. You need men of wits and will to fight corruption. So, disappointing appointment, but let's see what he's able to do.
On his part, former MP for Tamale Central, Eunice Afuseni, described Mr. AGYEBENG as too young to occupy the role.
There's some kind of respect, mutual respect, between the president and the special prosecutor.
If the person is young, and in this case of AGYEBENG, he's just about 43 years. The problem is if the age difference won't lead to the president trying to control him.
Problem is the age difference between only president and will it manifest in the president trying to control him, because ultimately president no ba.
Tonight we get a take of anti-corruption CSOs on what they make of the appointment of KISSI AGYEBENG as Special Prosecutor. Joining me via phone is anti-corruption campaigner Vitus Azim, and later Edem Senanu, who is the the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Azim. What do you make of the criticisms of the nomination of Mr. KISSI AGYEBENG to the office of the Special Prosecutor?
Well, when somebody is being appointed to play to fight corruption, like the Auditor General, like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, like the Commissioner of SHRAG, it is important that these issues come up and that the appointed authority will look at them. If there are bases for them, it will be important to have a second look or at the possibility of nominating the person. So yes, I don't know the man personally. I don't have enough details about him. But what I'm reading, if it's true, I think that the president needs to take a second look at these allegations so as to decide whether to actually nominate him and put parliament or not.
And so, definitely, if it happens, do you think he has what it takes to head the office of the special prosecutor?
Well, what it takes is not just a one-man show. The office of special prosecutor is an institution, and so it will involve not just him being the head, it will involve the staff that he's going to work with, and it also involves the government providing him with the necessary resources so that he can do it. It will also require on the part of the government to grant him the necessary independence and not interfere with whatever he decides to investigate. As a human being, and especially if the state do some of the allegations about his relationship with people in high place, partisanship and all that, these are things that it's not easy to put aside in Ghana. So you really need to be very strong to be able to resist the partisan interest in his work. And that is the worry.
Now,
even when Matamido was known, both sides of the political divide accused the various sides for doing one thing or the other to favor one party or the other.
Mr. Vitus Azim, I'm asking this because Minority Leader Haruna Idris, for instance, says the nominee lacks credentials and way to combat corruption. Former MP for Tamale Central also describes him as too young to occupy that position. Now, the Vice President of Imani, Bright Simons, wants him to recuse himself because of its close ties with the Africa Legal Associates. Now, I want your own assessment of the man in question.
I have told you that I don't know him personally. I've not interacted with him before. But again, age could be is a potential risk. But that doesn't mean that young people should not be appointed to certain positions. So again, I cannot say that he doesn't have the what it takes to be officer, to be special prosecutor. He needs to be strong, but not just strong in himself. They have a board of directors. He should be able to recruit staff that he can use, people of integrity to help him if he is a man of integrity. He has to look for non-partisan people to recruit. So these are some of the things that we should be looking at, and not just he as an individual being whether he's 40 or 50. We have had a president in some countries being 40 or less.
Okay.
So if you can be president of the country, you can also, you can offer any other public office in a country. So it may be a potential risk, but it shouldn't be the main determinant.
What are your expectations if he eventually gets approved?
Well, I think that if he's approved, the first thing is to clear the backlog of petitions that are at the Office of Special Prosecutor. And again, that is an area that there will be some amount of suspicion and potential issues there. Because, for example, Madam Mira alleges that he was a lawyer to some people that were being investigated on corruption. So if today you are a lawyer of this one, tomorrow you come in as the special prosecutor, how will you convince Ghanaians that you will not allow that relationship with your clients to affect whatever work you're going to do? Moreover, the issue of the AGYEBENG deal, for example, the former special prosecutor came out with certain issues that made government withdraw it from Parliament. But the Attorney General has said that the deal was clean. And the Attorney General is appointing body. So if he goes through and Parliament decides to throw the deal, if the government sends it back to Parliament and Parliament decides to refer it back to the Office of Special Prosecutor to say, how do you see it? Has the government addressed the concerns that were raised by Matamido? He will find himself in a very tight corner. So these are the concerns that people are raising, and I think they are genuine concerns, and the president needs to look at them.
I'm grateful for your time. Vitus Azim is an anti-corruption campaigner. He's been speaking about the raging debate about KISSI AGYEBENG as a special prosecutor nominee. We'll take a break on Joy News Prime. We're back in a jiffy. Speaking Speaking on News Desk earlier, Dr. Abediako said Ghana must be cautious in administering the Sputnik V jabs, adding it is in the Food and Drugs Authority's remit to revisit its earlier approval.
The European Medical Agency is currently evaluating Sputnik V. And I believe, it will be in our best interest to wait for that evaluation to be completed before we make a decision, because this is new information that has previously not been available. The emergency use authorization awarded Sputnik V in Ghana at the time did not have the benefit of this information. Now that these reports have been reported by a number of news agencies, including Reuters, from Brazil, and in fact, the Brazilian government have refused to approve this vaccine based on this information, I think Ghana, we have to sort of be cautious before we administer this vaccine, because if it is true that indeed these vaccines have been compromised, then we do not want them to be administered to the Ghanaian people. There are a couple of things that potentially could go wrong. As I said, the whole point of the genetic modification is so that the virus, the vector itself, only goes through a single cycle and then is cleared. You basically do not want to give somebody, because these adenoviruses cause colds, right? So you don't want to give somebody a high dose of a virus that is capable of replicating. It is, we all hear about, when we've talked about vaccines, we always say they give you a weakened form of the virus. Well, in this case, the data suggests that this has not been weakened. And so it could create certain issues. Another problem is usually, in order for the vector to carry the spike protein, which is the SARS-CoV-2 protein of interest, you have to remove one piece of the DNA and then replace it with a different one. The fact that this virus is able to replicate suggests that it may have lost the spike. So if it has lost the spike, then it's not going to give you any protection against SARS-CoV-2. So there are a lot of unknowns. Currently, all we can go off is this initial report, but it has raised significant questions about not just the efficacy, but in many ways, even the safety of the Sputnik. I'm very sure that our FDA is looking at it. Mm-hmm. And if it does prove to be credible, they may need to revise their authorization. That is well within their rights. It would not mean they made a mistake. It's just that now there's new information available. And if they take that new information on board and they think it's credible, they may reverse their decision to license the Sputnik.
Let's stick with COVID-19, go back to our earlier story where Ghana Health Service is questioning us of the countries we visit as at now with high numbers of coronavirus cases. Head of Health Desk, Fred Smith, joins me via Zoom. Fred, does the advisory mention the countries with exceedingly high coronavirus infection rates it wants Ghanaians to avoid?
Well, the advisory talks about countries in Asia and South America. And because of this, the health service is advising the general public to either cancel or postpone all non-essential travels to countries with exceedingly high COVID-19 infection rates. Aisha.
What are the additional measures the service is introducing to limit importation of the virus?
Well, the service is asking all travelers into Ghana to only test results or certificates bearing trusted travel or biomass codes will be considered valid for the travel out of Ghana. That's for those leaving Ghana. Persons must sign up for accounts on or with the same email address and mobile numbers at the point of testing. That's the laboratory when they are preparing to get their test results for departure. And travelers arriving in Ghana are also to use a tool made available through the UNDP-supported Global Haven Partnership Program. This is a global program which test results can be confirmed if they are indeed valid. All arriving passengers who test negative for COVID-19 at the airport have also been encouraged to self-isolate for 10 days. Now, all passengers who are also arriving from designated COVID-19 hotspots and testing negative at the airport. So now, even if you're testing negative, you may be subjected to a repeat test on the third day of your arrival, and this cost you have to bear it yourself.
So when does the advisory take effect?
Well, it doesn't indicate, but the tone suggests that it takes immediate effect.
So, okay, but of course, there are some latest figures coming for our COVID-19 case counts. Kindly update us on that.
Well, so for COVID-19, I'll just check with you right now. We're having just a quick one, internet giving us problems, but I'll bring you those figures shortly. But as at this point, I currently have the figures for the vaccinations.
Okay.
And we've done 846,588 vaccinations so far. And these are for persons who took the first jabs of the AstraZeneca vaccines and are waiting their second
dose.
Now, in terms of the COVID cases, we had the latest records. 49 cases in a single day. That's the latest we've had.
Okay.
The death toll is now 779. The total confirmed cases 92,562, and our active cases are currently standing at 1,587. You know, Aisha, because of the huge number of cases and the difference between that and the recoveries is the reason we are having the 1,587 active cases now. So the recovery stand at 90,196 so far, Aisha.
Fred Smith is head of our health desk here at Joy News. So take a break on Joy News Prime. There is more when we return.
Welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. Some businesses have begun seeing improvement in their operations following the improvement in the first quarter of the financial performance. Now, this comes a year after COVID-19 hits the world with its attendant effect on the Ghanaian economy. Charles Nixon has been looking through the unaudited financial statement of some firms and has this report.
Generally, the business environment appears to have improved based on the figures cited by Joy Business regarding some listed companies that have released their first quarter financial statement. Clearly, if you look at the revenue or sales and the profit margins, it has been better than last year when COVID ravaged the economy. This time around, it looks like aggregate demand has improved because consumers are purchasing items whilst patronizing services as well. So on the supply side, businesses are doing better. If you look at Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited, for instance, you could see some level of about 22% growth in revenue, which means that there were a lot of businesses done by the beverage company. Profit margin was also better. Ice cream manufacturer Fan Milk also did relatively better, even though its profit margin was the same, basically because of some cost elements in its financial. So on a whole, the banking sector has been good. The banking sector, if we could remember, got some level of relief because government wanted the banks to advance a lot of credit to Ghanaians and businesses to stimulate growth. And if you look at the banks that have issued or released their financials so far, GCB, Car Bank, ADB, it's been outstanding. We want to see some level of loans and advancement to businesses, particularly to stimulate their growth. So if this trend is to continue, government is going to be the biggest beneficiary in the sense that government will be able to mobilize more revenue, i.e. income tax from employees, and the economy is also going to advance or grow rapidly, and that is good because we want to see a lot of job creation in the.
Now, the Union of Industry, Commerce and Finance Workers wants government to make the true position of the economy known to employers and employees. This follows COVID-19's pandemic. It is also urging employers to consistently dialogue with workers to prevent labor agitation. This, the General Secretary of UNICOF, John Senanu Emegashi, believes will improve the labor environment. Here's more.
General Secretary of UNICOF, John Senanu Emegashi, believes
This will improve the labor environment. According to him, knowing the state of the economy will help employers and employees to plan for the future.
Government must also lead the way to let us know the true position of the economy as to what we should expect as citizens, so that when we are also sharing, then we know the right information to share, as well as workers and employers. They must also engage. If, for instance, in a particular company, there are challenges, don't keep it, let us share together. For instance, during the COVID period last year, we engaged our management partners to ensure that the little that we can share, we share them to enable our members keep their jobs. If management was both to share the information with us, then we should also be a bit reasonable in our demands.
Mr. Amegashi also called for consensus between government and relevant stakeholders on whether or not to increase the national daily minimum wage following the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. He, however, wants a marginal increase in the minimum wage to ease the burden on employees.
The government had directed that the bank should not pay dividend to shareholders. They had taken this decision just to support the operations of the business. Okay, so into the future, if much is gained, much will be given out. So that is one thing that we need to applaud the government for. So we expect the employers as well to take advantage of that. So they also support their workers.
UNICOF was established in August 2003 and has been a member of the Ghana Trades Union Congress since October 2003. Its membership cut across finance and manufacturing.
Before we leave, Ghana's premier mobile lottery, 787 NLA, has rewarded a sign writer 20,000 cedis in the just-ended draw. The draw 74 held on Saturday, April 24th. There is more in this report.
Albertino Owusu-Ansah, who hails from Sapasi New Site in the Ashanti region, upon receiving the 20,000 cedis prize, shared the prize will go a long way to enlarge and elevate his creative business. Overjoyed, Albertino expressed gratitude to 787 Lottery and urged all to partake in the Workers' Day 543,000 cedis promising jackpot.
I saw the advert on TV and I decided to take part of it. Everybody should believe in it and take part of it. Surely, one day, something will come out of it. 20,000 is a lot of money, and you can do something out of it.
The head of customer experience, Richard Akoto-Bamfo, at the event announced Star 787 Hash Full House Package guarantees at least a 10 cedis win in this Saturday's 543,000 cedis Workers' Day jackpot draw.
This Workers' Day, we wish every worker in Ghana a happy Workers' Day, as many will call it Labourers' Day. On top of that, this very Saturday, which we are all observing as Workers' Day, we are going to see a jackpot value of 543,000 Ghana cedis being awarded to you, and you can win that money to your house. It comes with a guaranteed 20,000 Ghana cedis with many jackpots or many cash prizes which you cannot miss this Saturday. If I were you, I would have picked my phone now, dial star 787 hash, make purchase of my ticket, play more, and stand a chance to win big. 543,000 Ghana cedis, 20,000 Ghana cedis guaranteed unique prize. It can be your moment. Turn your life around with all of these cash and be a happy player.
That's how we end business for this segment. Sports is up next.
Many thanks for staying with us to watch and Joy News Prime. Time to bring you sports. My name is Hans Mensah, and the president of the Ghana Football Association, Keto Kweku, has described reactions to the Black Stars' $25 million AFCON and World Cup budget as unfortunate. The government has come under criticism for allocating an amount of $25 million for the 2022 AFCON and the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Now, many Ghanaians are questioning the nation's priorities amidst the financial challenges related to COVID-19. But Keto Kweku is surprised by the reaction of football fans.
It's a very, very good initiative by the Honourable Minister. The campaign was clearly and is clearly aimed at all our national teams. Black Stars inclusive, upcoming CAN in Cameroon exclusive, World Cup qualification games inclusive. Beginning, ending of this year, all our national teams will be in action. We need to start preparing them. Next year is an extremely busy year for all our national teams. So that singular effort by the sector minister is right, is a step in the right direction. We have to support him because football is capital intensive. It is capital intensive. The rewards that come with watching football is unquantifiable. This is what people must understand, okay? When we watch football, even though maybe you may not be benefited directly by way of money, the benefits it's amazing, okay? We derive satisfaction from watching football, and you cannot place figures to this, for which reason every country, every government would always want to support the passion of the people, and this is what the minister and the president of our land has initiated, and I want to say kudos to them. I'm very grateful for this support. I've always said that if we have to be successful, we need the support of governments in ensuring that we are able to navigate our industry to the promised land, and I will forever be grateful about this.
Now, former skipper of the Black Stars, Stephen Appiah, has commended the Ghana Football Association after the launch of the 2020-2021 Juvenile Football League. Juvenile football, which is the backbone of every football nation, has been dormant for some time now. The former Juve midfielder expects the competition to produce more talent for the various national teams.
My days, I was very, very deadly. I started from the coast level, so it boosted my confidence. Even when I came to the Premier League, the confidence.
I'm very, very happy that they launched the juvenile. We call it Coast. That they wanted to bring it back, because standing here this morning, I'm a product from Coast, and I mean, not seeing Coast going on, I think is very, very bad. I mean, when we look at the under 17, the under 20, we can see that we are struggling today because there's no grassroots football. So if they are going to start thinking of bringing it back, I think that is very, very good. And I must say again that the FA, I think they have planned well and they know what they are doing. So let's say kudos to them, and we will see what will happen. Well, I think whatever is going to start, we have to support. We have to promote the juvenile football. Some of us, wherever we find ourselves, because we have been there before, we have to talk about it, and that's the way that the message will spread, and then at the end, all of us will be seeing, players who would tend to be a big players like what we did. So, being a former footballer, and I will still be in football, I think these are the things that we wish to see in the future.
Now, many players have benefited from the Colt football system. The system produced Ghana's all-time leading scorer, Samoa Gyan, and the 34-year-old, who is a product of Colt football, reckons the initiative will boost the fortunes of the country's football.
My days, I was very, very deadly. I started from the coast level, so it boosted my confidence. Even when I came to the Premier League, the confidence was already there. You could see the atmosphere, you see the fans very, very close to the field. So when they graduate and they go to the Premier League level, the confidence is already there because the fans are very, very close to them. They won't panic. This is how we started from the coast level. We started from this level, and then we got to where we are today. Ghanaians to push this thing because Ghana is a football nation. We've got quality players, we've got young, hungry players who are coming, we've got players who are looking up to us, who wants to do something in future, to help their families and everybody. So it's very good, and I'm sure we will revive it.
At long last, we have gotten back to what we used to admire.
We will see great players from this.
And we are certainly waiting to see the players that Ghana will be producing in the coming years. That's it for now. We'll bring you more later in the bulletin, including update from the UEFA Europa League.
Time for showbiz, and Becky is here with the very latest. Hi, Becky.
Hello to you, Aisha. How you doing?
I'm good.
I haven't seen you in a very long time.
I've been around.
Oh,
You've been busy.
You've been doing the Adowa dance. Oh yeah, we've got something coming up on Throwback Thursday. But let's talk about reopening of the cinemas. There've been calls for the president to open the cinemas, and he might just have a message for people calling for the reopening of the cinemas.
The journey to become the biggest film hub in West Africa begins with the Presidential Film Pitch Series, a project meant for entrepreneurs in the film sector to pitch their ideas and hopefully be chosen for the final cash prize. The future looks bright for the creative arts industry. Minister for the sector, Mohammed Awal, tells us why.
We would invest in this ecosystem to make sure that our artists, filmmakers, musicians inclusive, become rich and comfortable. As part of the President's effort to create jobs and make Ghanaians rich. In this connection, Mr. President, we want to help produce 200 movies every year. 200 Ghanaian movies every year. And that will generate approximately 40,000 jobs every year from the film sector alone. We also want to encourage the production of film scripts. If you have a film bank with good scripts, they'll have very good films to show.
And in case you are wondering when the cinemas are reopening, here is what President Akufo-Addo had.
And I want to conclude on a matter which I know is of great concern to many of you, that the opening of cinemas is under constant review by the COVID-19 task force. And hopefully, we'll hear from the task force very soon.
Yeah,
okay, so that's some good news.
Yeah,
actually.
Hopefully the cinemas will be open because we have 400, films to be produced, and so obviously we have to watch it in the cinemas. But T-Pain, American musician T-Pain, he's been apologizing for unanswered DMs.
Okay.
Yes,
that can be offensive to the people who love you, your fans.
Well, so apparently he didn't even know that part existed. So he just, saw that and said, okay, I apologize for not responding to your DMs. And we have the likes of Medical, who also sent him a DM who hasn't been responded to. We have Wendy Shea as well in there. We have Juliet Ibrahim, who has been trending because of this issue. And a lot of people are asking, why is Juliet Ibrahim sending a message to T-Pain? Because you're not Wendy Shea is a musician. Medical is a musician, so it might be
a group of musicians.
Yeah, it might be.
So what is Juliet Ibrahim doing? She's also in the entertainment industry.
And apparently they're friends. Okay. So, so Aisha, that's what's been trending the whole of today on social media. T-Pain and the rest of our celebrities who want to. Well, I also remember that I sent a DM to somebody, not T-Pain, to Adebayo, because I wanted to have an interview with him, but he didn't. He didn't respond because we are not superstars.
He doesn't know you're a celebrity.
They should wait for us, Aisha. They should wait for us. We'll be back. But today on Throwback Thursday, have you ever wondered what inspired the Akara Wesua song by Amachi Didi?
No.
But you love the song.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, he's been explaining to us here on eVibes.
You see, anything a woman will see, you may like it. You see, even if you buy a car for your wife, if you want a petrol, why didn't you fill the petrol?
Is that the reason why?
You see, so a man there, in fact, a man is
only be there. Everyone is saying, you give them, what you have to give them, maybe the house. Do you think that your sisters will come and say that what you built here? Oh, maybe your sample swimming pool.
No. In fact, my sister will never say that.
Exactly. So
but my sister is not, excuse me, a girlfriend or a wife.
Okay, so you're referring to, you know, people in relationships.
Yeah, that's what the reason why I sang the song.
Serious. It's true. Listen, women would always ask for more. I mean,
yeah. So he noticed that, and he had to compose the song.
Yeah, but if you notice that, just accept us the way we are. Thank you so much for bringing us showbiz.
Would you keep on?
And that will be it for showbiz. That is it for World News. For those of you watching on Joy Prime, that will be it. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. You get all the updates of the developing stories. The news continues on Joy News. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. The Ministry of Energy has dismissed claims the country is experiencing nationwide load shedding of electricity, insisting the outages being experienced around the country have nothing to do with the claims being made by the minority in Parliament. The NDC MPs at a news conference Wednesday accused government of objecting to the publication of a nationwide load shedding timetable that will be an admission that the unreliable power supply situation is a nationwide problem. The Energy Ministry, in a statement dated April 29, rejected the claims and explained the current outages only affect some parts of the country. Here are excerpts of the statement issued by the Ministry of Energy. It says the ministry wishes to put on record the following facts. Intermittent power outages since the beginning of the year. There have been some intermittent outages in parts of the country due to the following and that that will bring you the statement later in the bulletin. But former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor says government must, as a matter of urgency, probe allegations of illegal dealings by some oil marketing companies in the petroleum downstream sector. He described as alarming details of the 2020 petroleum supply sheet for the downstream sector, which established OMCs with little physical presence are lifting huge volumes of petroleum products. Mr. Donkor tells Joy News there will be huge revenue loss if authorities in charge, including the MPA, fail to act swiftly.
There is an OMC whose name I won't mention, with very few stations doing about 4.8% of products. And you wonder, where are these products going, especially when it comes to gasoline and diesel, what we also call gas oil. These two products. The huge volumes being lifted by oil marketing companies with very little presence on the ground calls for worry. And I'm calling on the Ghana Revenue Authority and the MPA to set up and plug every leakage, every hole in the value chain. So it is either MPA is not up to the task or MPA is complicit in what is happening. And I will want the government to, as quickly as possible, appoint a substantive chief executive for MPA, appoint a new board that will be up and doing, and also investigate, cause the state security agencies to investigate how and why these things are still happening, because serious revenue is being lost.
Is this something you want to bring to the floor of Parliament?
Well, if Parliament was in session, I would have filed an urgent question, but we are not in session.
No, you talk about it's either
NPA is not up to the task, or they are complicit in what is happening?
Or both.
Or both, fine. But what's your own suspicion, reading the situation and everything that you know?
Well, at this stage, I will want to keep my suspicions, since they are suspicions, to myself.
That was Kwabena Donkor on oil revenues. Let's go back to the statement issued by the Ministry of Energy, debunking claims by the minority in Parliament, and it states the Ministry of Energy rejects the minority in Parliament's assertion that different timelines have been given from different outfits in respect of the schedule of work. This is false. It is important to note the following. It states a number of reasons why we're going back to darkness, and it states the project at Pokwasi, the Pokwasi box supply point. It states the Kaswa box supply point. It states Tema to Achimota line rehabilitation. It states AFD loan and project. And it says government appreciates the patience of affected Ghanaians and respectfully craves their forbearance as these necessary works are undertaken in order to achieve their objective. Now, joining me via Zoom is Executive Director of AGYEBENG for more. We'll also be joined by Edward Bawa, who is a member of the Energy Committee in Parliament and a minority member of Parliament for Bongo. Mr. Boakye, I'm grateful for your time. Does the statement settle gives you a better understanding of the situation? We lost Ben Boakye there. We'll try and bring him back. And if Edward Bawa is there, Mr. Bawa, the Energy Ministry is debunking your claims in your press conference yesterday. What do you make of this latest release by the Ministry of Energy? All right, we'll bring you that conversation shortly in the bulletin. But the private sector is being urged to get involved in the country's bid to fight malaria, just as is being done with COVID-19. Though the Ghana Health Service is making some strides in keeping the disease in check, statistics show millions of people in Ghana are still coming down with malaria each year, with 308 deaths recorded last year alone. We'll bring you this story. I'm told Ben Boakye is back on the line. Mr. Boakye, I earlier asked whether this explanation by the Ministry of Energy gives you a better understanding of the situation at stake.
I think we are pretty much aware what the situation is. And this competition or this new release is not different from what we do know. I think what really is different is that this time around we have a document, stating timeline. It was statement after statement orally given to us. And now that it is stated on paper, it clarifies some of the timelines for the projects that are supposed to come on stream, to ease the power challenges that we do have. But the reality still remains that there are pockets of load shedding going on because the grid today cannot transmit the needed demand, and therefore areas will be turned off, during the peak hours, and that we are told we have to endure until the critical infrastructure has been completed. But it also, comes back to the same point about what we do beyond the Pokwasi, the Tema, Malam, transmission line, and the rest of it. There are, huge challenges across the country. The trips are happening. And, what is the roll-up plan to ensure that we can safely evacuate power to the consumers in the short to medium term? And I think it really demands a much more robust assessment of what the problem is and how much is required to be able to fix it into the future. And that's what we consistently fail to do. So we wait for one problem to be made and address it, and another emerges, and then the cycle continues.
What should have been the ideal situation, Mr. Boakye?
I think now we are in the problem. The problem is that you can't have a transmission system meeting the need. So the situation we are in is to have a more lasting solution that addresses it holistically. Look at the national infrastructure, the grid, to see how do we consistently invest to address the problem. And the problem has been investment, and that has been defined by the power sector since 2014, that we need to maintain a certain level of investment year on year across the value chain, which we have failed to do over the years. So the conversation now should be, how do we do that? How do we have a system that is able to raise the revenue from the distribution end to be able to pay the value chain, to make it much more sustainable? As we speak, the debt accumulation is still ongoing. So no matter how much money you throw at the sector, it's not enough to be able to solve the problem if we are not cutting the debt accumulation and actually erasing that. So it's a bigger problem than just two or three infrastructure that is being developed. At this point, we need to fix the problems in the sector in totality to have a more sustainable sector that doesn't recurrently throw up some of these load sheds.
I'm grateful for your time. Ben Boache is Executive Director of ASEP. I must say that all efforts to get the Ministry of Energy to speak more to this statement has proved futile, but we'll be monitoring with keen interest to bring our viewers updates on these timelines. Now, the private sector is being urged to get involved in the country's bid to fight malaria, just as is being done with COVID-19. Though the Ghana Health Service is making some strides in keeping the disease in check, statistics show millions of people in Ghana are still coming down with malaria each year, with 308 deaths recorded last year alone. Chairperson of the National Malaria Advocacy Committee, Nokodria, believes collaboration between the service and the private sector is what is needed if the country is to succeed in eliminating malaria deaths by 2030. Joy News' Faustina Safo has more.
National Malaria Advocacy Committee Chairperson Nokodria says the involvement of the private sector in the COVID-19 fight is a perfect example of the kind of collaboration needed to kick out malaria.
I look back to what we did last year when we had the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, it took private sector and the government to actually come together to put a plan together, and private sector supported in a big way. So on this journey, we're looking at that sort of formula. But most importantly, malaria, for some of us in private sector, know how it affects productivity and the numbers and all that. But the burden on the government and the country is huge. And with the strategies that had been put in place, we were sort of on the track to creating an impact. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, things have drawn us back. So as the advocacy committee, we've come up with an action plan and a strategy on how to engage at different levels to get support.
Mrs. Dria was speaking at a media engagement to unveil journalist Ohiniyiri Gifty Nana Danswa Inte as the face of a campaign to court the private sector. Programs Manager of the National Malaria Control Program, Dr. KISSI Maum, says government is counting on the ongoing malaria vaccination drive and intensifying sensitization, especially in rural areas, to help achieve the 2030 target of eliminating malaria deaths entirely. She, however, explains the midterm goal is to make significant inroads by 2025.
Ghana currently is still in the control phase where we are scaling up our interventions to reduce morbidity and mortality. Last year we recorded around 308 deaths in our facilities, and that has been reducing over the years. So we'll continue to work to make sure that by 2025 we are near zero deaths, and we've halved our diseases that we are seeing at the outpatient department. And beyond that, we continue to move and work to move districts into pre-elimination and then elimination by 2030.
On the ongoing malaria vaccination drive started 2 years ago, Dr. Mam described it as a success so far. The jabs, known as RTS, is the world's first malaria vaccine shown to provide partial protection against malaria in children.
at the end of December 2020, we had reached 70% of the targeted children we set out to reach. And we continue to work to increase the advocacy and BCC for people to take up the vaccine.
The face of the sensitization campaign, Ohiniyeri Gifty Nana, says her activities will focus mainly on rural communities where the fight against malaria is proving quite a challenge.
Definitely, I'm not going to do this alone. I am going to learn. There's a lot to learn about malaria. There's a lot we are taking for granted. And I've been amazed reading the material that I've been provided so far. So I'm ready to learn, and with the knowledge that I acquire, go pleading, sensitizing, educating, and giving information. Information is power, and I believe that we'll make the necessary impact.
Faustina Safo, for Joy News.
21-year-old Mason Richard Atta was lucky when a judge fined him 360 Ghana for stealing. His inability to pay the amount, however, meant that he had to serve a 1-year jail term. After serving 8 months, though, an agenda by Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative to help free petty offenders has helped secure his freedom. The human rights body believes minor offenders such as Richard should be made to serve non-custodial sentences and not thrown into jail.
It was a normal day for Richard until his friend asked him for a fun trip. He says after he complained about his financial difficulties, his friend later managed to convince him to snatch a woman's handbag on the street. An alarm was raised and he was nearly lynched. My mother and family members did not visit me at the police station. I am happy I'm free now. I did not get anyone to pay the 360 Ghana cedis fine for me. Prison is not the best place to live. We did not get good food here. The soup was like a mirror. I saw my face in it anytime I'm served. Humans are not supposed to eat that. I would advise young people to be careful out there.
What happened before you come there?
Richard's mate at the James Camp prison, Sami, says he abandoned his work when he started facing financial difficulties and started breaking into the homes of his neighbors. He was arrested on the day he stole 1,300 Ghana cedis and a flat-screen television.
I'm a stubborn. I forget the work I do. I go ghetto. I follow friends, go stay ghetto, and live ghetto life. Follow friends, do bad things. You are breaking people's. If not catch, you go straight. If you meet you, I will collect your things and them things. Then I know how to collect something from someone. The thing is not yours. Do my own. If you sleep, I can come your room inside. Can break, take your things. If you're not there, I can break your door. Come steal you. The time you will come, you know. You will come see someone steal you.
The push for non-custodial sentences recently increased after the incarceration of actress Rosemond Adade Brown. Well, the Deputy Director of Prisons here at the James Camp Prison, Raphael Tuekpe, believes that non-custodial sentences will help decongest Ghana's prisons.
Was somebody going to steal one fowl, and then he's been thrown into prison for 3 years? Calculate the amount that the government is going to spend on that person. If you ask me, it would be ideal if that person is sent to a poultry farm somewhere to support the poultry farm for even 6 months. It will help save the money that they will spend on the person as a feeding on him.
The Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative is concerned about the plight of the two men and many others across the country, hence its agenda to push for decriminalization of petty offences, which it believes will result in more non-custodial sentences. The Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative is concerned about the plight of the two men and many others across the country, hence its agenda to push for decriminalization of minor offences, which it believes will result in more non-custodial sentences. The CHRI paid the fines of the two men and now have regained their freedom. Here's the group's director, Mina Mensah.
We are focused
as much as non-custodial sentencing is one of the areas that we are looking at, our focus on the decriminalizing of petty offenses. So there are some offenses in our books that have colonial antecedents. For example, loitering or not being able to pay for a fine, which is why we are here today. And those are things that were set up during the colonial era. And these laws still remain in our books. So because of that, we have people in prisons who could have been put to other uses. That is where the non-custodial sentencing comes in. So if the person cannot pay a fine, what you do is maybe community service. For example, we are crying about our streets being filthy. There are things that can be done. We are talking about planting for food and jobs. We could put people in there instead of keeping them incarcerated in prison for fines that might not be up to the amounts that the government would have to spend on them. For example, one of the people that we are getting out was fined 360 Ghana cedis, and he couldn't pay. So he had to spend some time in jail, I think 1 year. Now let's calculate how much the government will spend on that person for the 1 year. And let's look at the amount. It's ridiculous.
The future looked bleak behind the walls of the prison for the two men. Now they say they are going out to face their challenges head on. They say they will definitely see light at the end of the tunnel.
Over 4,200 people in 20 communities are to be displaced by the construction of the Kwalugu multi-purpose dam project. The project would also affect 3,200 farmers with an estimated 6,761.5 hectares of farmland. Project Director Dr. Kwekuriafe says the affected persons will be compensated as part of a resettlement plan. He spoke to the media when the VRA released its environmental impact assessment and resettlement action plan meeting at Nalerigu in the northeast region.
The report said the project will be located between the Upper East Region districts of Boku West, Garu, Timpani, Binduri, and Talensi, and the Bunkurugu, Jinju, West Mamprosi, and East Mamprosi municipalities in the Northeast region. Among the compensation packages for those to be affected, permanent residential dwellings will be replaced at the resettlement sites, sanitation facilities will be provided by the project, temporary structures such as farm huts will be compensated in cash. Compensations would also be paid for all lands and crops to the affected owners. Herdsmen will be compensated for the loss of grazing land, as well as those into shared nut collection and processing, small-scale mining, and other micro-enterprises. Under housing, infrastructure, and social services, the report said the following will be provided in both affected and resettlement communities. The construction of 4 CHIPS compounds with staff accommodation, 2 health facilities at Wulugu and Samini, 4 kindergarten, 4 primary and 3 junior high schools, in addition to rehabilitation of 6 educational facilities in the affected district. Borehole, toilet facilities, construction of feeder roads, 10 community centers, and 5 chief palaces. Provision of markets, construction of 6 mosques and 5 churches, and many others will be provided. There is also a livelihood restoration and assistance program for all those to be affected. The report also outlined the impact of the project on both the physical and biological environment and an implementation plan. The project director, Dr. Kwekuriafe, spoke to Joy News after the meeting.
As you are aware, a project of this nature has certain impacts on the people who are living within what we call the affected area. In this case, the affected area is the area that will be flooded after the construction of the dam, and both as well as the construction of the weir downstream for the irrigation. Now, these we are required by law and by international practice to ensure that these people are not made worse off. In the sense, we have to resettle them and do so in a manner that ensure that their lives are better off. Now, because it's important that we work with them to understand what their needs are, and including all the other stakeholders. So the purpose of this meeting is to present, after extensive consultation and engagement, to present a report that we've put together as to how we are going to address all the issues that we've identified. Issues relating to where they are going to be relocated to, issues relating to the housing and infrastructure, livelihood restoration, compensation for assets lost, that's crops and land, as well as in terms of assistance, transitional assistance during the time they are being moved from where they are now to the new place. The idea is for all stakeholders to understand what we are proposing and also to bring their inputs. So far, what we have now are a set of proposals. Now, based on these engagements and the comments and the inputs and the insights that we get from the stakeholders, we are now going to finalize the report. Now, what's the purpose of the report? The report provides a framework for implementing the measures that will lead to the resettlement and being done in a proper manner. Without such a document, it's difficult to coordinate the activities. As we indicated, this will be a multi-agency type of approach because a lot of the areas that will be addressed go beyond VRA. Issues of forestry, you name it, health, education, town and country planning, roads. All these are areas that are statutory organizations or agencies responsible for. So after we put the program together and put a budget to it, we will then work with the ministries, the relevant ministries, to ensure that the resources are made available to address these issues so that at the end of the day, we can have a resettlement program that we are all proud of, that has learned the lessons of Akosombo and Kwon and Bui, and that the mistakes of the past are never repeated. And the people, generations after us, will not come and regret the fact that they were resettled.
The Asante-Hene Land Restoration Project is using a mobile phone application to track trees planted around Lake Bosomtwe. This comes after a private developer cut down about 600 trees planted along the banks of the lake. The mobile technology will help track trees planted and their specific locations to help detect their destruction. Nanaya Ojima has more in the following report.
This lake, it was covered by a hunter. The hunter name is Old Man Bompe. The hunter have a dog. The dog name is Future. That day was a taboo day, but we didn't go to forest. The hunter went to the forest and saw antelope.
Prince Mensa is one of the teenage tour guides at Lake Bosomtwe.
The hunter said, this water will be a lesser ghost. The lesser ghost in tree is Bosom, and the antelope in tree is Ochin. The hunter add Bosom and Ochin and gets Bosomtwe. The name of this water is Lake Bosomtwe. We have 22 communities around this lake. The length of the lake is 20 kilometers, 14 miles. And the area of the lake is 16 kilometers, 10 miles. And the deep is 78 meters, which is 234 feet down.
The lake is gradually losing its quality and beauty as some individuals defy the lake buffer of 100 meters for plantain cultivation and other activities. Through the Asante-Hene Land Restoration Project, there is a plan to restore the vegetative cover by planting 3 million trees around the lake. Asante-Hene Otumfo Osei-Tutu II explains.
Now, I've been very particularly concerned about Lake Bosomtwe also. The degradation, the 22 communities who live there, the awareness for them to appreciate that this is your livelihood and this is what will sustain you on earth and all those things. That's why I initiated the tree planting program there. Just for people to appreciate that we need to plant trees.
But the efforts are being thwarted by some individuals, including residents of the communities around the lake.
Recently, I had a report that someone had gone to the tree that they had planted. For whatever reason, a sub-chief there sold the land to him and he went there to degrade to just because he wanted to plant mangoes.
With the Green Now mobile app, a picture is taken of a newly planted tree. This is uploaded onto the application platform together with other relevant details of the tree. Kweku Mensah of the Oheneba Poku Foundation implementers of the program, further explains how the app works.
We made it simple for the user. So you select the tree, the one who planted it, and then you give a brief description about it. Then you save. But then to the back end, what we are doing is we're picking up the coordinates of this location from the device. Yes, so we mark it to the position it was planted. Then we save it to. That means for this one recorded, it will be in our database. We have track of it. We know that 5-10 years to come, a tree was planted here by this person and was recorded by this person.
The record is also expected to help check against destruction of trees.
We are doing this across the whole lake. So that means with our target of 3 million plus trees, we can get a record of it. And for we knowing what we have done so far, we can be able to project what we do next. So if you come back to this place and then we don't find a tree, then that means someone destroyed it.
With the application, progress of work done by the foundation will easily be assessed by all interested persons. For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
Time now for the second part of business. Charles Aite brings you details.
And welcome back to business. It has been 3 years since the introduction of the tax stamp policy, and yet still importers of beverage products say the tax stamp affixing station at Tema is still inefficient, costing them demurrage and losses running into the thousands of cedis. I visited the station and have come through this report. What you see now is the tax affixing center of the GRA located at Tema. Now, what is happening here is an exercise to affix the tax stamps on these beverage products. The issue now is that most of the systems here cannot meet the demand of the number of beverages that come in each and every day. The Food and Beverage Authority tells us that in a day, 20 containers of beverages come on the shores of Ghana at the Tema port. But these systems here, which are going very much slow, you can see for yourself how slow the system works in affixing these stamps on these products. This, the Food and Beverage Authority is raising concerns about, because most of their members would have to pay for demurrage, of which they say is increasing the cost of their produce and the cost of doing business in their own field. The Executive Secretary, John Agui, tells me that this poses so much profit threats to the association, the extent to which government, specifically the GRA, must come and act as soon as possible.
Well, what I'm seeing here is a mix of different things altogether. And looking at the facilities as we have here is what we saw at the beginning of the inception of the tax stamp.
So you feel nothing has changed?
Nothing has changed, and what we see here is the same facility that we see. And we are told that there is a second facility which is yet to come into the known, but then it's being used to augment what they have here, and then also to whip up the, let me say, the processing of the products. So that is how it is now.
So since things haven't changed, definitely it's going to have an impact on demand and supply. How are your members, reacting to this particular static nature of how things are?
What you see here, over the period through, the members have complained, especially the importers. Now what we see here is a delay, which is also adding on cost in terms of demurrage, which is no fault of the importers. Now what the GRA is telling us is that if you look at the demand for affixing the stamp itself, because now it has invariably you cannot sell your product without affixing the stamp, and therefore the challenge of getting the stamp affixed on your product is in high demand. The queue itself is being formed. This is because what we see here has been a challenge when they switched on from Authentics, who used to supply or manage the facility, and then to Bob Press de la Rue. Now, if you look at it, what it means is that the delay has come because the stamp that they are using is facing a lot of challenges. You're going to incur more charges, or let me say more expenses, and therefore you need to also pass it on to the consumer. That is it. You need to pass.
Don't you think that is a case of what is happening now?
Now that is how it is, and therefore if importers will have to bear the cost or refraining from increasing the cost because maybe they might considering the situation as being temporary. But for importers or the businessman, we don't have time to waste. All that we want to see is that the business is running and is going smoothly. Any delayance is a cost to consumer cost, and therefore we don't expect this thing to happen at all.
Do you feel that most importers might be thinking that Ghana wasn't really prepared for this initiative, looking at what is happening now?
Well, initially, we have requested for digital stamping. If you look at it, digital stamping for industry, which is much more easier, and then the importers will go on affixing the stamp. We thought perhaps by now the facilities will be expanded, and therefore there wouldn't be any delayance.
So far, agents of the Ghana Revenue Authority working and supervising work at this particular facility say that plans are far advanced for the establishment of complementary services across the regional capitals. What this means is that importers will not have to be waiting here for their products to be affixed, as so much demand is high in this regard. But for the Food and Beverage Association and members of the association, time is of the essence. The more the products wait in line to be affixed with tax stamps, the more revenue they lose out of this congestion. I'm Charles Aita reporting for Joy Business. The Insurance Commission, in collaboration with the Motor and Traffic Department of the Ghana Police Service, is set to begin an aggressive campaign to clamp down on vehicles with fake and invalid insurance policy stickers in the country. According to the Deputy Commissioner of Insurance, Kofi Ando, there are many vehicles, commercial and private, which ply the roads without any form of motor insurance, whilst others, which appear to be covered, have fake or invalid policy stickers. He spoke to my colleague Bismarck Awusa.
The primary role is to indemnify victims of accident when the accident has occurred. That is really the primary role. But it is victims of accidents involving vehicles which have been insured. You accept that one. So if the vehicles involved have been insured, then the accident victims are entitled to insurance, and therefore it becomes a primary responsibility of insurance to process and pay. If the vehicles are not insured, that becomes another issue. Watching the documentary, I saw a couple of people who said we couldn't get any compensation because they said the vehicle was not insured. So that is a big problem that we should all aim at. Make sure that all the vehicles on our road are appropriately insured. Nobody is saying there should be an accident, but from the crash documentary, we saw that accidents do occur. In fact, they are occurring way too fast than we want. So it is important to make sure that we get all vehicles on our road insured. That is the first thing. The second thing is that as much as possible, we need to also take steps to begin to lower the rate of the accident on our road. And it is important that a lot of recommendations were made and the NIC fully supports all of them. We need to look at our roads. We need to look at big trucks which get stuck in the middle of the road. We need to look at the Okada thing, the motor riders. We need to pay attention to the details that were mentioned in there, and that will help us to bring down the rate of the accident on our road. We are trying to deploy the gota phones and getting the police to check the vehicle on our roads and see whether they are insured or not. It will be good to sort out those vehicles that are not insured. It will be good to name and shame them, especially the organization one. But more importantly, it will be good to get them to change their behavior, to go and actually take insurance so that they can protect people who use the road and people who use those vehicles in the road.
At this juncture, let's bring you a summary of international business news. And that'll be by way of business. Sports is up next.
And it's time to bring you what remains of sports here on Joy News Prime. My name is Hans Mensah, and we start with rugby. And some members of the national rugby team have jumped to the defense of President of the Ghana Rugby Football Union, Herbert Mensah, in the wake of a petition for his removal. Members of the Ghana Rugby Union Player Association, GRUPA, are not happy with the way the sport is being run. My colleague Asari Bediako has the rest of the story.
The Ghana Rugby Union Players Association GRUPA has accused unilateralism, disproportionate remuneration structure, imposition of non-existent rugby laws, conflict of interest, among others. GRUPA has petitioned the board of the Ghana Rugby Football Union to remove the former Kotoko CEO as president within 72 hours, but several players and officials of the national rugby team, the Eagles, have thrown their weight behind Herbert Mensah. Here is Yaya Lukman, a key member of the team.
The club, they are saying the president of Ghana Rugby have been forcing players to come in to play. If you don't play, you won't get access to the national team. That club, 2 years now, the club is not even playing the league, the Ghana League. So who is pushing who from where? Who is pushing who from where? So they should come in details, like face the reality and settle the issue. This is not something that they will just wake up from somewhere and come and wrote whatever they are thinking of. If they are having their differences with we don't care. What we know is Herbert Mensah is pushing a lot. Some years ago, I know Ghana with only one JC, national team JC. But 4 years now, since I joined the national team with Herbert Mensah, the league, I got a kit, sports kit, the boots, everything set.
Salisu Abdurrahman, team manager of the Eagles, has highlighted Herbert Mensah's contribution towards the development of Ghana Rugby.
Here we are. We have a lot of players who have been training for even since they lift up the lockdown. We've been training because we knew there are tournaments ahead of us. We have, as we speak right now, we have 2 months to the tournament. And the president of Ghana Rugby is pushing
because where he wants to take Ghana Rugby is there. People can see, because we all know the history of rugby. If you want to see the Ghana Rugby then and now, you see, if you go to African Rugby, you can see the achievement where we are now. 4 trophies in the past 4 years. It's not easy. And the man is putting in money. So most of these guys who have been training from Monday to Thursdays at Aquinas, we are all fighting for one thing, Ghana and the future of rugby, so that one day, if not for me, my children, the youth, will come and benefit from this. You see? So who is coming? If you don't want Herbert right now, because from my knowledge, where I stand right now, I know rugby.
And of course, more on that later on at 10:30 p.m. on FunZoom. That's it for now. My name is Hans Mensando.
Bulletin tonight. My name is AGYEBENG. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. You get the updates of all the developing stories. Up next is PM Express Business Edition. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.